evening, everyone. Welcome back to the 1 Hour series. My name is Julia Gorban, and tonight we have another amazing casting director joining us. So get your questions ready, put them down in the comments as soon as you can, and we'll try to answer as many questions as we can. Tonight, we have Megan Large Dominic joining us. And Megan's not just a casting director, she is also a producer and an acting coach. So if you have any questions at all regarding casting or acting or anything at all, put them down in comments. We'll once again try to answer as many as we can. Now, without further ado, I'd like to present Megan. Hi, Megan. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Megan is reporting from New York. I was going to say reporting to us from New York, as if this is a news broadcast. But and you're a New York-based casting director, but you cast. I'm assuming you cast shows not just in New York, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
So most recently, I've been living in Houston, Texas, the past 3 years, where I was the associate artistic director for Theater Under the Stars. So as a associate artistic director, one of my jobs was to be the resident casting director, in addition to being the new work director and all the other jobs of helping to run a regional theater and line produce and get all the shows up. And then now my family and I have relocated and we're temporarily back in New York because we're actually going to move abroad. And so we are in a bit of a hiatus before we head out of the United States, and we're moving to China.
Wow. Is that like a forever move or just for
No. It's for a project for my husband. It's for just, it's a who knows how long kind of move. But so for right now, I'm in New York. I'm still casting for Tuts. I'm actually working on the first 3 shows of the season. And just trying to keep myself busy and occupied and entertained and help people get jobs, which is my favorite thing in the world to do, to give artists work and try to make all of that happen while I'm still in the US. And then probably while I'm abroad as well. I imagine I'll still be doing remote work from there.
Yeah. And I mean, these days, everything's virtual anyway, right? And it's like, I feel, I don't know, what are your, I guess before we jump into questions, because I'm already asking questions, what are your thoughts? Do you think we'll not stay virtual, but do you think we'll have more virtual stuff going on once we're back to normal, whatever the normal is?
Yeah, I do, because I think as the only tool in the toolbox, it's imperfect, right? As far as theater goes, for sure. But as an opportunity to create accessibility, to allow more people the opportunity to audition, to open up pots and be able to, if you take a typical EPA day, right? I can see like 180 people in a packed day. With tape, I could see 1,000 people. It's really incumbent upon what the parameters we set based on how much time we have to review. So that really does open up a lot of accessibility for folks to get a chance to be viewed. And then I think the sort of perfect combination is when we've got the tape happening to kind of get you in the door, and then it's like get you in the room and we can work together, and we can put you live in front of a team or live with me, and we can work together and I can give you some adjustments and then successfully tape you for the team, which is sort of like the dream. But I think it's here. It's not going anywhere.
Awesome. Yeah, it'll definitely open more opportunities to people who, especially non-union actors who,
yes,
at an EPA, like you go audition for Broadway and you're non-union, you're there all day and there's no guarantee you'll get seen. But here you are submitting video auditions and they're probably getting viewed. So that's amazing.
Exactly. Yeah. I just think that it's the union of it all. And truly just like, there's so many people, right, that want to audition for all these regional theaters, but they can't afford to, I worked at the Muni in St. Louis for 5 years as the resident casting director and associate producer. And then 2 seasons prior to that, just as the casting director. So that's 7 years of auditions out there. There were a lot of people that couldn't come, right? And couldn't get seen at the 2 days we would have in New York, which we only had every 3 years because of the equity contract. So again, it's just an opportunity to continue to allow people to be seen in markets where honestly, they're probably very employable, much more so than, Broadway is the big pot, right? It's got the most people in the pot. You know, you should want to work. So if you're trying to get seen by regional theaters in other markets and smaller markets and different markets, you've got a better shot at getting a job, at getting seen, and really getting those opportunities. And I think that video really contributes to that.
Yeah, for sure. Now, Megan and I discussed how the stream is going to go before we went live, and I totally didn't do what we discussed. So
Neither
why
did
don't we
I.
jump back to what to what I said we would do? I know you've already mentioned a few projects that you worked on and theaters you've worked with. But could you tell a little bit more about maybe just some highlights of your work, what you do, what you've done in the past, so people know what kinds of questions they can ask you?
Sure. So like I said, I'm a casting director. You know, I consider that the first in my list of skills. I started in New York. I was in New York for over a decade. I worked with Bender Casting. I cast a bunch of Broadway shows like The Revival of Grease and A Chorus Line. And if any of your viewers have ever seen the movie Every Little Step, I'm one of the characters in that documentary about the casting process of A Chorus Line. Please don't make fun of my hair. I was very young on documentaries. There is no hair and makeup team. Um,
Now I want to
and
see it. Now I'm gonna look it up and see it.
Oh,
Now that
I'm
you said that
literally
thing
the
about the
first.
hair.
I'm the first person who speaks. Yeah, and I used to color my own hair. Then it's a tragedy, but it's an amazing film, and I'm really it's one of the highlights of my life to be associated with it. So yeah, so I did that for a long time. I worked on a bunch of features with some incredible casting directors like Ellen Chenoweth. And then I transitioned into producing and worked for Fox Theatricals for almost a decade. So we produced Bring It On and Legally Blonde and Red and, you know, all these millions of things. And so I was casting and producing, but mostly being a producer, and then moved into the regional world. Like I said, went to the Muni. So went out there and located and wanted to be a part of a community making theater, not making theater for demographics, and understand what that experience was like. So I did the Muni for 5 seasons. And then from the Muni, I went to Tuts. And that's sort of my trajectory. And then the whole time on the side, I've always been an audition coach. I had a lot of private clients for a long time when I was in New York, especially specifically working with kids on, feature work and series work. That's sort of kids casting is a passion of mine. I did the Lion King kids for 3 years, and that's some of the most fun casting I've ever gotten to do.
How many cute auditions did you get? I can only imagine casting kids shows. They're probably also cute coming in singing the little songs.
Yeah, they're all cute, but sometimes you don't want them to be cute, right? Like you're
True,
not
true.
looking for cute. You're looking for, with kids casting, ultimately, you're looking for the most raw, authentic little person you can find who just also happens to have some of these skills that you require. But, you know, there's a grace with kids casting, right? Their creative teams aren't looking for manufactured emotions. And so it's like you're trying to strip away what mom and dad told them to do out in the waiting room and just try to get them to make like little real, raw, reactive choices. And when you kind of either get a kid that walks in and does all that or are able to pare that other stuff away and allow them to just organically be, it's really exciting because you don't know what they're going to do, right? They're kids. So they always surprise you. They always make these unique and bizarre and amazing little choices. And then it's harder though, because I fall in love with all of them. It's harder to be like, this is the one. You're like, oh, but they all are so special and individualistic. But yeah, it's trying to find authenticity.
Yeah, and I say this during every single stream because every single guest during the stream says this. And I guess you didn't directly say it, but you suggested it that being yourself during auditions is kind of what casting people want to see. You're like, I'm trying to strip away what the parents told the kid to do to see who the kid is. So I guess that applies for adult actors too, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if I had one piece of advice that I would say, what's the most important thing you can control in casting, right? Which is not a lot as the actor. You don't get to control a lot. You control who you are in the room. And in the almost 20 years that I've been doing this, I've seen a shift in what people respond to, what people are asking us to provide. And part of that shift is people want to see real, interesting, authentic individuals come into the space, not what you think we want to see. Because if you are performing before you've even begun to perform the material, right? Part of my job is to be a detective. It's to investigate who you are. It's to get a quick sense of like, what's your energy like? Do you seem warm and open and ready to play? And like, let's just figure all this out. Are you, a ball of nerves? Are you cold and shut down? Like, what am I receiving in this room? Which informs part of what I'm responding to. And you don't always control that in the best way, right? You can't always walk in the room and bring all that, like, I'm open, I'm calm, I'm myself, I'm connected, it's amazing, I'm like deep in all those places. That isn't always possible because you just had this huge fight with your roommate as you were walking out the door and you're pissed as hell and it's totally in your brain when you're walking in. But part of the process of casting is creating a relationship between performers and the casting office. So the more we see you, the more we get to see different shades and colors of you, the better we become at understanding what you really are right for, what you succeed at, and what I can then think of you for and present you to the team and see if you're a match. So it's really, it's not transactional, it's relationship building. And I think that people don't view it as that all the time.
Yeah, for sure not. Hopefully after these streams, because like I said, literally every single guest says be yourself at auditions.
Yeah.
Hopefully people, get the message. I sure got the message because before I started doing the streams, they started off as, oh, okay, let's help out actors. And it actually helped me a lot too, because I used to come into auditions and be like, okay, what are they looking for? I'm auditioning for Belle. Okay, I better be like all princessy and stuff. And I would come in and just not be myself. I'll be like, okay, I'm the character. That's it. And now I'm finding out that all this time, I should have just been myself.
Yeah.
Like, thank you. Okay, now I've learned something. Now, other than what you've mentioned so far, is there anything else you usually tell actors that you coach, or in general as a casting director, any suggestions you can give for how to make your audition successful?
Sure. I mean, I'm sure that anything that I'm going to say is all territory that's been covered, but I think like all children, I will speak to you now as the mother in the room, as a mom, you always hear it differently from a different person, right? It's like your sister comes over and your kids listen to them and you're like, how do you listen to her? I said those exact same things to you and you just didn't receive it. I think preparation is so unbelievably key. I think that people are dismissive of it. They think they can sort of find a way to, just skim some sides or skim that music and run in and it'll be okay. Now, obviously, you're not always given material with a long lead time to prep it, but as best as you're able, the more prepared you are, the better and well-rounded your audition is going to present and the better you're going to feel while you're in the moment of doing it, because that's such a mind meld, right? Is like when you catch yourself messing up and then you like pull yourself out of the scene and you're having an inner dialogue that is not what's coming out of your mouth. And then I think people don't realize we can see that all over your face. I don't need perfection off the page. I need a choice. I need you to go big and put it out there. And that gives me something to play with, to be like, it was great for the first 3/4 of the scene. And now I just want to fix this last bit where you went off the rails from what I know they want. So I think preparation is like the best tool you can have to really make yourself feel good. And then doing your homework. It's frustrating. It's frustrating when you waste our time, right? Like if I'm casting Rock of Ages and you're coming in singing The Miller's Son, that's not really useful to me for this material. So know what you're coming in for, have something as close as you're able that is representative of the style of what we're doing. Check the dates. Like I can't stand it. This just happened to me recently. Made an offer to somebody. They had the dates over and over again, and they have, a personal commitment in the middle of it. Regional theaters have 12, 14 days of rehearsal. We can't give you off to go do, that just means that sometimes in life, you're either going to choose to go to the audition or you're going to choose the personal commitment. That's either is fine. Life is important. But I think this sense of like, I'm sure I can figure out how to work it out ends up becoming work for us and a frustration for us. And ultimately, I wasn't able to hire this person. So stuff like that, it's just like not knowing who you're coming in for and what you're doing and preparing yourself to align with that. It feels like a waste of my time when I'm showing up ready and excited and hoping that you are the answer to everything I've been looking for.
Now, you mentioned a couple of points that actually we have a couple of questions from the audience that were submitted in advance, and they had these specific questions. So number one that you mentioned was singing. Well, the question was, how important is it to sing a song in the style of the show? And you mentioned obviously it is important. Now, if a person, let's say a person only does pop song, like pop is their strength, but you're auditioning for, I don't know, Les Mis, like something classical, and they're like, okay, well, there's no other auditions, so I'm gonna go in for Les Mis and sing something in the style of Les Mis, but that's not their strength. So would you rather not have them audition at all, or is it okay if they come in and show what they've got, maybe in hopes that you'll consider them for, a pop musical later on?
I mean, I think that that's a nuanced question. It's just not that simple, right? Because what if you walk in with your pop styling and I happen to know that the music director wants to do something really unique and different with with this part or with the show in general, right? But perhaps this conversation has just come up before I went into the room. So maybe that's a useful thing. But sort of overall for me, you know, I believe that everyone shouldn't be auditioning for everything. I think that you should push yourself, but I think that, if there are things that you don't do successfully, then I don't think you should come in and not do them successfully. I think that, again, part of the relationship build, it's one thing to not have a song in the right style or it not really be your jam, but you're a hell of a singer. So come in and sing amazing and have that moment where I'm like, wow, you're incredible, Julia. And I'm so excited to know you. And unfortunately, this isn't it, but now there we are. But if you're coming in for something, I don't know, I'm making this up, and it's a fully high soprano and you're not a soprano, that is a waste of my time. Does that make sense? That to me is sort of like the delineation. It's like you're just coming in because it feels good to you to take the time to come in. But I have a job to do, which is to solve a problem. I need to find someone to be Belle. And so my job is not to just see everyone in the world today, it's to find Belle. So if people aren't really able to do Belle, then personally, for me, I'd rather not see you that day. I'd rather wait till it was something that you're right for and see you that day.
Yeah, see, that's good to know, because I feel like a lot of times in the industry here, oh, just audition for everything, just get seen. But then I'm like, okay, but I'm talking about myself personally. I'm the other way. Like pop is not. I mean, I sing pop, but I like that's just not my thing. I like can be anything classical and opera and stuff. That's my thing. Or like belting is fine, but pop is just not a thing. But I have auditioned for shows that are like, okay, bring in a pop song. And I'm like, okay, well, can I sing Glitter and Be Gay in pop style? And I feel I don't know if it did me any good, coming in and auditioning with something that wasn't my strength, hoping that they'll be like, oh, okay, well, obviously not a pop voice, but maybe we'll consider her for something else later. So I don't know. There's just people who in the industry they're like, yeah, audition for anything. I might be casting, something else for next season, and I'd love to see you show me what you can do. Versus some other people are like, no, don't come in because you know what project I'm casting. Just come in for something you're right for. So it's good to know your perspective on this too,
Yeah.
because I feel like every casting director is different.
I was going to say that. I think everybody's different and every office is different. And
Mm-hmm.
also, that's part of the work that you can learn to do, right? So it's like watching things like this and taking
Yeah.
notes and being like, okay, well, Megan doesn't love that. So
Hmm.
my friend, million years ago, I lived with an actor, million years ago, when I first started in casting, and he used to keep a binder. I mean, this is because I'm really old. It was a binder. I should do this on your phone now. But he would write down every audition he went to, what office it was, what he sang, how he felt the feedback went in the room if he got any, and who he sang it for. So that he would chart, if he went in for Tara's office 4 times, who was there from Tara's office? Was it a different person every time, or was it the same person? And if it was the same person, he didn't want to sing the same song he had sung a week ago for them. And he'd forget, like you're going on a million auditions, you forget what you've done and who you've done it for and whatever. And things like that, you start to, you know what I mean? You start to like build up the pattern, like they're really responsive when I'm this way, or they're not responding when I'm doing that, or they're saying encouraging things in the room that are conversational, and they want to talk about other projects, or they're very like, nope, thank you, that's all it is, and I'm not right for this, but ultimately everyone's gonna respond to different things. It's just, for me, I'm incredibly practical. This is where I put my producer hat on. So when I'm casting for these regional theaters, I don't have a lot of money, time, or resource. So I don't have time to see people who don't fit in the world of the shows that I'm doing right now. So, to me, that is a waste of my time because I only have this day or 2 days to see folks. It's like the same with agents. Agents are going to pitch you guys on the breakdowns. I'm going to look on the breakdowns and be like, I love Julia. She's great. But she's not right for Rock of Ages. So it's not that I don't like her. It's that I know already she's not right for this show. So that is a waste of my time right now. Move on to people I think are right for it.
Yeah, you're so right, though. I'm completely wrong for the Rock of Ages.
I've never seen you audition, so I'm just using you as the example.
No, yeah, rock is. I did consider having a rock song though, but then I was like, okay, even if I get cast in a like rock musical, what am I gonna do with it? Like, just don't waste their time. So yeah, you're totally wrong for that show. um, Now we had. Let me just read a question that someone just messaged me. Daniel was asking, what are your thoughts on singing songs from the show for auditions? And it's actually a question that comes up a lot. So it's good
all
to
the time.
You.
I was going to say this is the question everybody asks, right? We will all have a different opinion. Mm-hmm. My opinion is, I'd rather you sing something in the style of the show than a song from the show, because I will then because like, let's use this as a really plain example, having literally just done Rock of Ages, so it's very in my mind. All these people sent in all these EPA tapes doing cuts from the show, but they're like their audition cut of it. So then when I want to see them, they're just going to have to relearn that song in the cut I need done, right? Which is neither here nor there because you've already done it, but it's sort of like, it's not as exciting to me to hear you then do the same thing. Like, it's useful, just not as interesting. I'd rather see you just like come in and do your thing. Like, you should have a rock song. So come in and do your one rock song, and I'll be like, oh, he's really right for the show. I'd love to hear him do our material. Let me give you our material. That said, I don't think it's a bad thing. It's not like a make or break. I'm not going to not consider you because you sang, a song from the show.
Yeah, and I know you're right. There's different opinions in this. We've had, he's not a casting director, he's a music director, and he said, I actually am okay with people singing from the show. It's like you're already giving yourself a callback for the role, and then if we don't like it, then we don't call you back.
Well, right, but what if that's not the role that I would think of you for? Like, there's, exactly. To me, and this is where we get in the dicey territory of like seasonal auditions or multi-show auditions, but really I think it's applicable in general, which is I'm the casting professional. So I would like you guys as the actors to just come in and present what you do and allow me to do my creative work, which is to say, ooh, I think that's right for this part, or this is right for these 3 parts, and I'd love to explore. don't come in and be the casting director for me, because you don't know the sidebar conversations we're having. You don't know what they're looking for or what I know they respond to, or any of the inner workings of the creative team that I'm, managing right now. So if you just bring in your raw, beautiful talent, then I get to play and figure out different places where it works.
Yeah, and I think I totally agree with that, because if you sing something in the style of the show, then you're considered for all these different roles. If you're
Yeah.
going for like the lead in the Rock of Ages and you sing that specific song, and the casting people are like, yeah, not right for that specific role, but I don't know if they'd be right for something else because they just sang the song of that specific character, right? So you're like
Yeah.
cutting roles for yourself right there. Okay, moving on to the next question from the audience. Let me see. Actually, a good one because it's a follow up on what we just discussed. What about singing songs from the shows you've done?
Oh, I think that's great and key.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing drives me more nuts than when I look at someone's, like, you come and you sing your song, you're great, right? And often I want to hear something contradictory or in a totally different style or a totally different way. Or you go like, do you have something funny? Like, what's like your comic song? And they're like, oh, I don't have anything. And you're like, really? So I saw you were the donkey in Shrek. You don't have anything funny? Nope. How'd you get cast in that part? You know what I mean? It's like, if you did these roles, you were coached in them. You should have them in your book. If you don't want to lead off with them because you don't like them or you're tired of them or whatever, that's fine. But I think to not have those songs in your book is a disservice to yourself.
Yeah, see, I completely agree. I've heard once again, different opinions on this, both your opinion and the one where it's like, oh, it looks like you're lazy because you didn't learn another song. I feel like it's so important to talk to different casting directors because you guys are all so different. Who knew,
Yeah.
right? People are different.
Crazy.
Surprise, surprise, right? Not all the same. Um, okay, well, one of our big points before I get back to the audience questions to discuss was how to submit to casting directors, because everybody obviously wants to get seen by you. So, and once again, I know it's different for different casting directors. Some like postcards, some are like, don't ever send me postcards.
Don't ever send me a postcard.
Don't send me junk, please.
No.
So how can people submit to you? And are you even okay with people just, emailing you or calling or whatever?
I have found over my career that my preference, honestly, is only to be for someone to cold submit if it's specific to a project. Because otherwise, you might be wonderful and it might be amazing, but it's like I'm retaining so much stuff in my head at any one given time that sometimes out of context, it's like, oh, that person's great. And you stick it in a file and you mean to go back and look at it. And then 9 months later, you're working on the project that person might have really been right for. And will you have the bandwidth and the time to remember to go cull that, like, someday down the line from random person that sent me a video file? Right. So I always think it's healthy to send something that's specific to a project. You can always call offices. I'm a one person shop, so it's pretty simple, but you can call Telsey and you can call Tara and you can call all of them and ask who is the lead on that project, so that you're directing your inquiry to that point person or to the assistant on that project. That's another thing. It's like Bernie Telsey isn't casting all of these shows. So don't send your stuff to Bernie Telsey. It's like, are you sending it to Craig or to Rachel? Like, who are you sending it to? It sort of shows also that you know what's going on, which I think behooves you to be an actor who's a bit more savvy. If you're going to submit, I like virtual submissions, anything that has media. Everybody needs to have a website, a really basic website that has media clips, because if there's anything interesting about your look in your resume, I'm just going to get on Google and look you up. So it's hard for me when it's a concern for me when I can't find anything online of someone performing. Again, the regional market specific is really different than Broadway. When I cast on Broadway, we had time and time and time and time to do a lot of excavation. We don't in the regionals. So it's quick and dirty. If I can do a Google search and hear you sing and be like, okay, that's like worth in the sense that lines up with what I think I'm looking for. Not if you have the word. Just, are you ish right for what it is? it's worth me setting up this person and investigating it with the material.
Yeah, completely makes sense.
But don't send a postcard ever, 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 ever. What's the point of a postcard? I've never understood it.
Yeah, I've heard. It's actually this Facebook group for actors, and people. Someone asked, "Oh, where do you guys print your postcards for casting directors?" And I'm like, "What postcards?" And turns out, and a bunch of people responded. They're like, "Yeah, yeah, I print them, and since I send them to like 50 different casting directors, I think you're supposed to follow up with casting directors every 6 weeks or something." And I'm just thinking about myself. I'm like, okay, this is, if I get junk mail, like how annoying does that get? I mean, you'll probably remember the name of the person who spams you, but I don't know if that's like a good thing.
Well, I just like the other part of it for me is actors don't have money to be spending on something that isn't going
Yeah.
to give an ROI. And so it's like, well, what is the game of this postcard thing? I just don't see an ROI on that. So I'm like, we should be targeting. Like, it's one thing if you are doing a show and you want to send me
Mm-hmm.
something about your specific show and say, always lead off with, I would be happy to comp you or anyone from your office. Please let me know if you guys are available to attend, and send that thing off. And maybe some assistant, will be like, you know what, you should go check this person out for me. Would you do that? That would be great. That's useful to me. But just like a general, like, hey, I had a callback for something. Okay. I mean, that's great. I don't know what that means for me.
Yeah, and I mean, yes, seeing somebody's work is, I guess, the best way to find out
Yeah,
about them. It's like, oh, free
of
tickets to a
course.
show, and I get to meet a new actor. Great, I'll go.
Yeah.
Okay, so we talked about auditions and submitting to casting directors. Um, can we talk a little bit about callbacks? And
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like everybody talks about auditions, but once you're through to the callback, and you mentioned that regional theaters you cast faster, Broadway takes longer,
Mm-hmm.
usually. How long do actors usually have to prep for a callback, um, on average? And also, what can they do to, nail their callback?
Oh, that's a really good question. I mean, I always try to give people, I try to give people a couple of weeks if I can. I try to sort of do like my casting round, go to New York, go here, go there, and set them up. I mean, I would say my tightest time turnaround, I try not to do anything tighter than like 5 days, especially if I'm giving people music to learn. Like, I want people to have time, again, to be as prepared as possible and to feel really good about it. Um, so but I know in other regional theaters it could be like 2 days. You just have to do, you just have to go with it as best that you can. What can you do? I mean, I would be transparent. For example, in this new era, right? Like anyone that I've had coming in, it's really more of like a first round based on just like generalized tapes that are coming in for me virtually for shows. I'm not just giving them sides and song, I'm giving them a backing track. I'm trying to eliminate a barrier for folks to be able to like turn a tape around. So if you don't have access to an accompanist or someone to lay that down for you, you can at least ask if the theater has material. Sometimes it's as simple as just no one ever asked for it. And then it's like, oh, actually, yeah, that'd be really easy for us to do, no problem. And maybe they can't, but again, it's worth asking. Um, I just think that if you get material and you do your work and you have questions either right out the gate, if you have questions right out the gate when you're looking at it, if it's you on your own or you through your agent, reach out to casting and say, do you have 5 minutes? Or can I email you a couple of very quick questions? Like, the tone of something is confusing to you, or you're just not sure what the take on it is. Ask the question now so you're prepared and you've made the choices. Um, and when you're in the room, if you have, usually I say, like, do you have any questions before we get started? If you do, please take that time to ask me. That is not a negative. Again, it's not a transactional relationship. I want you to come in. I want you to feel really good. I want it to be successful because I want you to be a solid contender for the creative team. So anything that I can do to help you feel confident and secure is a win for me too. So that's part of what it is. I think it's just really like not feeling like you're supposed to know all the answers to things that you may not know all the answers to. Use your voice and ask for help.
Definitely makes sense, and also good to know that you can ask for help, because I feel like we as actors sometimes we're like, oh, should I ask, or is it going to look like I didn't do my research?
Right.
So it's good to know that we can actually ask questions. uh, Now, regarding callbacks, we had actually, you know what? I'll make this a more general question because a couple of people asked. Jennifer, hopefully that answers your question. Jennifer just messaged me this. And I'll do a specific example for this one because I actually have a friend who is an amazing dancer, but she's not a singer, so she's a dancer who somewhat sings.
Mm-hmm.
And she got called back for a lead in in a show. It was an ECC call for dancers. She sang at the dance auditions. They called her back for a lead, and she messaged me. She's like, I don't understand why they did it because like I'm not a singer and my resume is all like ensemble stuff, all dancing. Um, and so she got called back for this role. She goes to the callback and she's like, well, I sucked because they had all these amazing belters there singing, and then it was me, and I just didn't do a good job. So in that case, when you know you're either not right for the role or you're just, you know, it's like a dancing role and you're not a dancer, or a singing role and you're not really a singer, should you still go to the callback or should you politely decline?
I think it totally depends on you, the show, and the situation. Again, I
Mm-hmm.
don't think there's a one size fits all answer. Um, what I would say about your friend in that story is like to lead off with the energy of like, I don't know why they called me. There's something about you that was exciting and dynamic that was really appealing to them. They wanted to know if there were more colors and more things that they could explore that would fit a version of the show starring you. So the answer is like, holy shit, I don't know why they did it, but they did. And I'd really, I'm going to knock it out of the park as best I'm able. So part of it, I think, is a mental thing, right? Um, if you're not a great singer and you have this big callback, I think it's time to go work with somebody, get a coaching, get as prepped as you can be to feel as good as you're able. So at least you can go in and be like, I'm not the strongest singer in the world, but this is as good as I'm going to get this. And I feel really confident in my body about it. But ultimately, if you get the material and you look at it and you're like, or you look at a dance tape combo, or you look at something, you're like, I can't do that. It's okay to say it's not in my, skill set. But again, I don't think it's as simple as being like, well, I can't sing, so I'm not going to go. Well, what if they're envisioning it in a different way that you don't know? It's like you can ask questions. You can call casting, you can call and say, I am so grateful, I just want to ask one clarifying question. Like, this is typically, a big belter part, and I have a really limited range, and I just want to be sure that, like, you guys know that about me, because I don't want to waste your time and I don't want to waste my time. But if there's another way you guys are envisioning it, I'd love to come in, see what they say. I've had all kinds of conversations like that with people. We're just people. We will talk to you and be nice to you and discuss whether or not you're the right fit for this moment. We don't
Yeah.
want you to be embarrassed either.
Yeah. So what you're saying really is communication is key.
I think so.
Communicate, talk,
Yeah. Aren't you actors? Isn't that what you do?
right?
Talk?
Yeah. Talk a lot.
Mhm.
I actually have a friend who got cast. He's primarily a dancer, and he got cast in one of the big Chicago theaters as well. Obviously, in musical theater, everybody has to sing, even the dancers. He got cast as a dancer and was being considered for the lead. But then when they found out he couldn't really sing, they were like, okay, well, he's such an amazing dancer. We'll still cast him, but
Yeah.
probably not have him sing a solo song. So, and he told me, he's like, okay, I'm not going to go to the callbacks. Like, I'm going to embarrass myself with this, because they gave him a callback song. He's like, no way. I helped him work on it actually. And then I was like, if you're able not to sing the song tomorrow, don't sing it. Like, if they ask you, would you rather dance or sing? Just dance. And And he was like, okay, it's going to be terrible. I was like, no, just go anyway. Let's see what happens. And he went, and they were like, okay, you're an amazing dancer. We'll figure out the singing situation when we get there. And he got cast. So you never know.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, let's see another. Actually, before I ask another question from the audience, let me ask one of our general questions because those tend to cover a lot of audience's questions. What are some mistakes that you see actors make at auditions, and how can they avoid them?
A big one for me is how you treat other people before you come in the room. I think that a lot of people think that what happens outside the room, I'm never going to know about. So if you're rude to the monitor, if you're unkind to other people sitting there, I tend to hear that stuff. And I really pride myself in my career of working very hard not to work with people that are like crappy people. I think that we're really fortunate that we get to play pretend for a living. And I have just no space or energy for anybody who brings any other energy other than gratitude and excitement and focus and joy. And that's not everybody, right? And I'm not always successful, but I sure try. So like I hear what goes on and I find out, and that stuff matters to me, you know? If if someone's not a nice person, it's like I don't want to put them in front of my team, you know? So I just think that like your attitude and the way you treat people follows you around, and it is that is what your reputation is built on, right? I think that's really important. Um, so that's something. What else? Oh, I think not giving yourself enough time. I think sometimes people, obviously there's 100 reasons why we're late to stuff, but I think everyone does better when they roll up with a solid like 15 minutes to ground before they go in the room, to just really be to be present in your space. Yeah. And I think that that's essential time. That for me is like part of the window. Like the window of the audition is only like the 2 minutes in the room, right? So it's like 20 minutes. The 20 minutes are like the 18 outside and the 2 minutes in the room. And I think that's really important. What other mistakes? Well, like I said earlier, not understanding who you're going in for or what the piece is. I once was doing auditions and had an actor walk in and didn't even know like what theater I was auditioning for, asked me like, what are these shows and what's going on? And I was like, no, you can go back out and come back in when you know who I am, what I'm auditioning for, and what you're here to participate in. That would be great. I'll be here. I'm here all day. You just let me know. But that stuff happens all the time where people just like to your whole thing about audition for everything. It's like people just do. And then again, it feels disrespectful to me because I'm present and aware and excited to see you. If you're not tapped into what you're coming in for, then, we can't have a real two-way thing.
Wow. And I mean, if you're just auditioning for everything and coming in, there's always at an EPA, there's always a sheet of paper that outlines all the shows and roles. So please
That's
take a
what
look
I
at
asked. That's what I suggested he go read.
Speaking of those forms that are usually there for EPAs, sometimes they post when they post the date of the audition and who's in the room, that sheet of paper. Sometimes they give the casting director's contact information on there. Now, is that an invitation to follow up and say thank you for seeing me in an audition, or is it just there just in case you get a call back or whatever, and you shouldn't contact the casting director after each audition?
I don't think it's an invitation. I mean, it's there because they just make us write it down. It's not. It's not up to us. They depends on how fussy your monitor is, and they tell you what to do. I mean, I think you could say thank you again. The saying thank you thing to me feels like dance school. Like we all line up and we curtsy and we say thank you so much, Miss Julia, for teaching the class today. We're two professionals. We're here doing our thing. So I think you can have that info if you do get a call back and you have questions, you know what I mean? If you want to submit on another project that you know that person's working on, like now you have contact information for them. But to me, it's not like an invitation to open a dialogue because we have a million things going on.
All right. Well, that's good to know because I always wondered. I'm like, I usually don't like when people, spam me. So I'm like, maybe I shouldn't spam other people. But that casting director's email sure looks looks like I should be contacting them. I was like, but I never know if I should or not, so I never did. And good thing I didn't. Now that you say that.
Everybody responds differently.
Now, if you do message, or let's say you're submitting a video audition or emailing the casting director for whatever reason, what are your thoughts on emailing not just your headshot and resume, but also links to your demo reel?
Yes, I think that's wonderful. Like I said before, I think anything that includes media or access to media and clips to see you work and hear you work is essential. So I think it's always great if you like, I don't know that you need to have a demo reel linked. I think you should have a really basic website that has that demo reel right there, and you should have that in your signature. And then you could have it all the time, right? So then anytime you're emailing about anything, you're networking and you're creating opportunity for clicking on something.
So, well, you mentioned the website a couple of times today. So I'm guessing it's pretty important to have one, right?
Mhm.
What about social media? So, like your professional Facebook page, a YouTube, what is it? Account? Yes, a YouTube account,
Yeah.
and Instagram page where you post your work. How important is that?
I mean, I think it depends on what media you're trying to get work in, right? So in theater, it's not particularly um, in in vogue to cast people based on followers or cast people based on like the work that they're outputting. It is certainly something that happens in television and in film. So perhaps if that's something you're trying to line up for yourself to to build followers and to build that sort of presence, that can be of use. It can be of use because I know casting directors that live on TikTok and find people that then just kind of file them away that are putting out really funny content or really interesting content. um, to me, I think social media presence is, if there is stuff that I can see and I can link to it and I can get to it and find it all through one user friendly port, be that your email signature or off your website, and there's new content to be seen of, then it's a value. It doesn't have value to me if there isn't stuff to find. Do you know what I mean? But I look, like I said, I Google people and I look them up. So I want to know what you look like. I want to see if there's any videos of you singing, if there's any videos of you doing anything. So I definitely go look for that stuff. But if it's just like you and your dog all the time, it's not wildly helpful for me, but doesn't mean it shouldn't exist in the world.
But the dog's cute.
Yeah.
The dog's there. I My dog used to sing every time I had a vocal lesson. Back in the day when they were in person, I had a couple at my place, and the dog would just howl whenever I hit the high notes. It was that was the best thing. um, okay, I totally just forgot what I was going to ask you because I was going to read somebody's question and I forgot. Well, never mind. So it was, see, I always like blab on, and then I forget what I was gonna say. So in general, in casting, are there some things that you absolutely hate, or do you have any pet peeves as a casting director that actors auditioning for you should know?
No. I mean, I would say my only personal pet peeve is I don't like when people come across the table and touch me or shake my hand or invade my personal space. I think, especially post COVID, that's probably not going to happen very much anymore. But it was certainly prevalent pre COVID. And that's just a thing for me. If I know somebody, I often get up, I come from behind the table, I give a hug, I say hi, I greet them. I always make it a point to greet every person who walks in my room by their name, because for me, that is proving that I've got the right headshot, the right person. I'm dialed into what's about to happen, so we're on the same wavelength. But I don't need you to come over and touch me. I don't like that.
Yeah, I think post COVID, that's going to be a thing where people are just going to be like, yeah, no touching. Just
Yeah,
just say hello and please keep your distance.
exactly. But other than that, no. I mean, look, casting is bizarre and wonderful, and you're asking people to come in front of you for 2 or 3 or 5 minutes and immediately make choices and be vulnerable and put themselves out there and put themselves in your care. And I take that responsibility really seriously, and it's a joy to get to do it. And sometimes it lands and sometimes it doesn't. You have good days and I have bad days, and we all have all kinds of days because we're human beings
Yeah.
being together, right? But the fun of it is that it's never the same day twice. And that's what keeps it all alive and exciting.
Mhm. Now, have you ever had an actor come in and do something at an audition, and then you said, okay, I never want to see this person ever again? Has that ever happened?
Um, yeah, not really. I mean, I've had a couple of weirdos come in the room, but they're not really perfect. Like often that's in LA, honestly,
Yeah.
because you have like an EPA day in LA and there's just not enough actors out there to fill the day. So sometimes it feels like they just round people up off the street and encourage them to come in and sing happy birthday for you. So I've had some strange birds that have walked in the room that I'm certain are not actors in a professional sense. But from people that are professionals, no, not really.
Yeah.
And
No.
I believe that people have good days and bad days. So not often, I am willing to give everybody a second chance and to see you again. But there are going to be people that are not my taste. They're going to be
Yeah.
people that just aren't my cup of tea. The same way, it's the same for everybody, right? Like
Yeah.
if there were emphatically wonderful people, there would only be 15 people and they would all work because everyone would agree on who those 15 people are. That's why you go see a show and you're like, he's terrible, she's incredible, I hated her. It's taste. And it's not just my taste, it's what my team responds to. So there are going to be people that I'm going to love and think you're great that one director I know won't like, and I know this other director will love them. So, I don't know. Everybody's a possibility.
Yeah. I guess every person's different, so you gotta.
Yeah.
I guess you could. Well, is there a way you can do research on casting directors on what they like? So I guess
No.
right now we're talking to you in person, so we're like, do you like this? Do you like that? But you can't really know, right, in
No.
advance.
You know what we all like? We all like talent. And I know that sounds glib, and I don't mean it to be. There is a certain baseline skill and indescribable something that is required to pop in a room. And everybody wants to know what that thing is and how do I get that thing and find that thing. And it is unknowable. But you know it when someone walks into a room, when you're at a party or you're somewhere, and sometimes there's that person, right? And you're like, they're just dynamic. They just shine in a moment. Some people are like that, and we respond to it. Some people are just really skilled craftspeople, and we respond to it. But depending on the level of work that we're doing and the level of stuff I work on, I can't take people that don't come with a baseline skill set to the table. You have to know how to sing, and you have to know how to be able to sustain that over multiple days and multiple performances. You have to be able to make choices. You have to understand the craft of acting. You have to understand the craft of dance. And I don't work on things most of the time that allow me to take some totally raw piece of clay and take it to a team and say, mold this person into the star of tomorrow. So I do think that that's where it can be the differential, which is, everybody has a dream and wants an opportunity, but all of you guys that work so hard and have trained your whole lives and are constantly training and growing and learning, there's a reason, right? Because you're craftspeople and you're refining your skill. And you have to bring that, and then we meet it. If that helps.
Oh, does help a lot. Everything you said tonight helps so much. And I feel like it's totally worth. I know there are a lot of casting directors, but it's totally worth meeting as many casting directors as you can, because it's just fascinating how people are different. I don't know why I'm surprised about this, but it's just every time I have a casting director on one of these streams, I'm like, wow, you're so different from the other casting director we just had.
Well, there's no casting school. We are, we apprentice. That's how we ultimately get into this. We all apprentice with other casting directors. We take on things from them. We take on things from our colleagues, and then we learn as we develop, in our creative, journey. And therefore, unlike a BFA program where we're sort of trying to turn out people that are ish similar, we are all unique and different and respond to different things and like different things, and talk about stuff different ways and talk about things really similarly too. And I think as you guys all start to, again, build this relationship with casting directors, you may not know what we all like, right? But you'll know the people who you feel good being in their room. Like, whose room do you walk in and you feel like they're with you, they're present, you're present, it's happy, it feels collaborative and wonderful. And whether or not the project sticks, it's a positive experience. And so as you have those, then it kind of doesn't matter if you know what they like. You think you're right for this project, and you might be. Go in and do your best in a room where you feel supported, and then that's a good day for casting.
Perfect. Well, for those of you watching, we are pretty much at the end of our stream, but I will ask Megan one last question that everybody wants to know every time, because we are all submitting video auditions now. Any tips on making your video audition great? And that goes for both film and theater, if you can talk about differences or tips for both of those.
I would say for theater, my biggest note will be specific to music theater. Please do not submit cuts of songs that you don't sound great in. Even if you're tight for time. If you're tight for time and you need another day, ask for the day. See if you can. Because I'm experiencing this now with people that are sending in tapes and they're sharp on a couple of notes, and this guy almost lost a job, and then I got him to work with the music director, and now he got the job, but he's like, oh, I knew the tape wasn't good. So then don't send the tape. You're in control of it. You're in control. And I think that you don't put stuff off to the last minute, so you have time to tape it and walk away from it if you don't feel amazing about it. Or if you just want a day to approach it again. I think that ultimately theater artists need to remember that when they're taping for theater, it needs to be alive. It does need to be brighter. It needs to feel like you've got energy. And when we're taping for film, it needs to remember that the camera is a bug way close in your face, and it needs to be much more subdued. And that every breath and thought is what we're reading across your face in a way that we don't always take the nuanced opportunity to in theater.
All right, and we, for those who wanted to know more about video auditions, we did discuss this in more detail in previous streams, and we've mentioned lighting, we mentioned sound, like tech stuff, how to edit your video, so feel free to check out those streams as well. Now we will have more casting directors hopefully on these streams, so stay tuned. I try to post these events as soon as I can. Once they get scheduled, so stay tuned. Tomorrow we have a Broadway actor on a stream, so he'll be talking about his journey as an actor, and he's actually currently touring or rehearsing for a tour in Frozen, which unfortunately closed on Broadway, thanks COVID. And on Thursday, we have a stream with an artistic director. So check out this page, and all the streams are posted there if you'd like to join us. And Megan, thank you so much for doing this. It's been amazing, and it's great to, once again, great to meet another casting director and find out who you guys are as people as well. It's just so, I don't know, before I did the streams, I kind of was like, oh my God, casting directors, I got to be like all professional and like, don't move, pretend you're like serious. And now I'm like, oh, I can actually talk to you. No way. No way. I can talk to you like a regular person. Um, so, do you have any closing remarks, Megan, or like anything else we didn't mention? Any other tips as you know, a goodbye to actors that you'd like to say? So anything else at all? I really, really.
I would. Oh, I was just gonna say, I'm so excited that things are starting again, and I'm grateful to everybody who's willing to dive in and try. And I wish everybody an incredible year. I want everyone to break all legs and get vaccinated and get everyone you know vaccinated. And let's get this started again because we need art back in our lives, like full time in all the different mediums.
Yes, please, people get vaccinated.
Please, get
Please.
vaccinated.
Apparently, the vaccination rates are going up though, slowly but surely. So here's hoping. So, okay, thank you again, Megan, and thank you everybody else, and hope to see you at our next streams. Have a good night.